While pressure continues to the downside for Bitcoin, the real question is, where is the next major opportunity for Bitcoin, or is it a major, massive macro turnaround in resulting in the next major dumbola? Well, that is the topic of today. Other than that, I do want to let you know that if you are trying to contact us via email, Elsa is quite busy. She has been getting to all the emails as soon as she can, but just understand she'll get to you when the time comes. So please do not send multiple emails about the same damn issue. All right, sweet. Now that we've gotten through that, let's just jump right into here. I want to revisit one of the more important charts that I really want to be putting a lot of focus on throughout this probably next month time span, which is the Bitcoin productions cost chart. So this represents the basement price to produce a Bitcoin, essentially, and that is represented by the bottom end of this channel right here. As you can see, where my cursor is currently on, about $30,000 is what the lowest price to produce a Bitcoin would essentially be. Now, the reason why this is significant, the reason why this is relevant, is because, well, many reasons, a few of them that we have not spoken about before. But first and foremost, what we have spoken about before is that basically, anytime that Bitcoin has played out a major dumbola party, whether it be a black swan or just a massive bear market, the bottom end of this channel has caught essentially the lows. You can see right here in November 2022, where FTX, Luna, and all sorts of nasty things were happening at the same time, as well as just, a general bear market. You do see that area did catch essentially the low. Before that, we do see that first initial dump from actually the 3AC and Luna blow up right here, catching around that low. We do see the more recent Rona dump over here from March 2020, also catching that low, the 2018 bear market cycle low, and of course, a few others along the way. So why am I calling this out yet again? Well, first and foremost, because the halving is coming. And with the halving, the price to produce a Bitcoin will double. Why is that? Well, it's a simple math equation. When the supply gets halved, reduced by 50%, naturally, the cost to produce one Bitcoin is going to at least double. So in this case, with this level currently at $30,000, that will go somewhere around $60,000 price per Bitcoin. So with Bitcoin hanging out just above $6,000 right now, I would say that, if Bitcoin does come down about another 10%, that kind of puts it in what you might call an opportunity zone, as we have seen any other time. Now, I do want to take this video to be a little bit more nuanced in the interpretation of this, just because I do think that this is going to be becoming more and more relevant as the halving comes up in less than 3 weeks now. But, here's the thing. When we have seen halvings in the past, like the last one in May of 2020 and the one before that in July of 2016, we can see first that the basement price did double, actually more than doubled in this case, went from 4,100 all the way up to 8,900. That actually came back down a little bit after that, but did catch the low right there. But I do want to say that in this red circle, it doesn't look like much on the charts, but this is a 3-month time frame, all the way from May to July, basically, where Bitcoin tested around that region, set in higher lows. More importantly, it did continue upwards and onwards throughout the rest of the year, or next year and a half, really. But that was 3 months. That was 3 months of price action. A lot of waiting time within there. So you have to be asking yourself, if Bitcoin does come down below $60,000, or even just below it, it's completely fine as well. If you just buy right there, it's probably going to be waiting. Now, for I think a lot of reasonable people would look at that and be like, yeah, duh, fucking duh. But I do want to make sure that also for the people who might be a little bit newer in this market, like, things do take time. I know that sounds crazy after the last few months when Bitcoin's gone vertical from, $39,000 to the current all-time high at $73,000. But, realistically, those relatively short periods of price action are produced from long sideways periods of price action, which are rather boring. I mean, really, the base was setting back on over here in this absolutely dreadful range between March of 2023 to October of 2023, where Bitcoin was generally sideways in about a 20% range. On top of that, if we go back to the, wrong tool right there. If we go back to the halving before, of course, 2020, we can go to 2016 over here. Same thing, right? Doubles from 350 all the way up to 700 plus. We do see the price does, come down a little bit below that region. Doesn't remain consistently below it, obviously, but, this does imply that we could see a deviation from $60,000 a little bit further down. Overall, though, we would expect that to be a major value area. In this case, it did come down and actually was operating below by actually almost 10% at one point. Now, it did quickly recorrelate back there, but 10% on a quick move for about 2 to 3 days. And actually, I was around during this time, and I remember this. And well, it was like people were really, really scared during this time. And this was, it actually wasn't coming off a new all-time highs, but it was coming off of a rather important move nonetheless. So, looking at these two things together, it does imply that, hey, one is, again, going to be a long time right here. I mean, this was all the way from June 2016 to December 2016, basically 6 months, half a year, in a mostly sideways range. And same thing over here, with a 3-month range. Now, the halving before that in 2012, we don't really see the same thing. I mean, Bitcoin was just well above it, so fair enough. But going back on over here, can Bitcoin come below $60,000? Sure. We just wouldn't expect it to stay below there for too long. Now, I want to take this analysis one step further and also talk about something that we haven't spoken about before, which is the margin that you see right here, the margin between the green and the blue, essentially Bitcoin's price and the production cost, not the basement price, but just whatever this number is right here. Anyways, right now it is negative 6%, meaning that the green is above the blue, above the Bitcoin price. The last time we saw a negative relationship here was actually back on over in January. January was where Bitcoin did sell off, initially getting ready for that next major move to the upside. The time before that was all the way back on over here in January of 2023, before Bitcoin was getting ready to go from $16,000 to $23,000 and over the course of like 2 to 3 weeks. Other than that, we've seen mostly positive here, and the rare negative reads, again right here, negative 15%, were all major opportunities long term. Again, the further that I go back, there's really only a few other times in Bitcoin's history we've really even seen that. So, going back to the current time right here, it's like, how cute do you want to get with this shit? How cute do you want to get with this shit, monkey boys and monkey girls? Because I do think that right now is the time to be a little monkey boy just sitting on my hands, generally speaking. Of course, you can trade around positions, but if you are thinking a lot more long term, do understand that, yes, price can come down, another 10% and not really do anything out of the ordinary. It can come down another, 15% and not really do anything out of the ordinary. But ultimately, over the long period of time, if we were to go to maybe like a monthly here and just look way far out, we're probably not going to look at what happens over this next 2 to 3 month span as anything like super, super significant, at least, from what I'm gathering from this long term. So, I do think that does deserve some consideration as Bitcoin marches onwards and sideways here. But yeah, and then also, it's no secret that during this cycle, which I would say began in January of 2023, that Bitcoin has played out an average of 20% drawdowns here. In this case, about an 18% move right there from high to low on a closing basis. 20.5% move right there from high to low on a closing basis. Another 16.5% move on a closing basis. And if we were to look at this on Wix, it would have been about 20%. And also one right here as well. Sorry about that. How could I forget you? 19% drawdown right there. So you're starting to see a bit of a flavor of the cycle type correction. And as of right now, with Bitcoin's high at just below $75,000, or on a closing basis, $73,000, it's already played out a 15% correction. Okay, what would that look like as a 20% correction? That put Bitcoin somewhere around $58,000. Okay. Not that crazy in the grand scheme of things. If around halving or a little bit after halving, we do see a move down around there, I think still completely fine. Just that would be kind of the bottom end maybe of this opportunity zone on a higher term time frame. Of course, other things can happen as well, but this would be what I'd be looking at, from this data. And if you're not super aware of the past, from cycle to cycle, Bitcoin typically has like a flavor of the cycle type corrective percentage, like this one over here, 23.5%, top to bottom, 30% right there, another 32% right there, another almost 30% right there, 35% right there, 35% right there, Do you want to guess what the next one is? 24%. On a wick basis, these were mostly around 35%, just so you know. And then we saw the same thing over here actually, but I won't do the same thing yet again. So, somewhere around there, give or take a few percent, probably what it's going to be as far as a worst case scenario. Anyways, let me bring up my notes back on over here because we've just been going over the same chart for all this time now. Now let's go to the shorter term timeframes. Yesterday we did say very likely a short term continuation move somewhere down below about $65,000. It looks like CME did make that move. The median on the daily has actually moved a little bit lower here at 64,400. Do keep in mind that there is a premium over spot price action by a few $100 as of right now. And actually we're seeing volatility move up yet again. So, what do I expect from something like this? Short-term bounce, as we said yesterday, somewhere around $65,000 basically. Now Bitcoin trading up almost from low to high about $2,000 from that number. Realistically, I think that we're going to see some sideways from here. Maybe it tests a little bit higher, maybe somewhere around 67,500 on CME, but ultimately it's a trading range now and probably going to get quite boring, I do suspect. So while short term, can bounce a little bit more, pressure remains to the downside. We're still seeing downside stochastic momentum over here as long as Bitcoin is closing below 70,200. Also rejection at the critical zone. This to me is more likely to come down as volatility cools off from this perspective. So on the other side, at some point, there very likely will be hidden bullish divergence because the daily RSI is already making lower lows than what we saw on March of 22nd low, which was the lows right here when Bitcoin was trading essentially at $64,000. So again, Bitcoin can kind of dance around here for a little bit, maybe play out a short-term upside move, come back down, set an ever so slightly higher low, and then put in some actual hidden bullish evidence and then try an upside move. But again, it's probably going to take some time. It's probably going to get a little bit boring here. You're going to see these ranges start to tighten up, I suspect. Dailies are going to, become less and less interesting, especially compared to all of this price action right here, which was a very fun time. I mean, basically every day was up essentially. And that brings me also to another point, just because I see this around, YouTube comments and YouTube, Twitter, and all these sort of places. And it's like people act, or I think newer people act. I think the older people kind of already know this, but newer people act that if you don't go basically straight up every day it's not a bull market. No, that's just simply not true. The last sort of example I can bring you to, the last example I could bring you to is basically just a year ago. It was a bull market, but you saw a lot of consolidationary periods, even in, of course, 2020 and 2021, which was one of the most severe bull markets of all time. You saw month-long or multi-month-long corrections along the way, completely fine. And same thing, maybe not multi-month-long corrections in 2017, but certainly like a few week-long corrections during that whole run. So, it's going to take its time, obviously. For right now, still pressure remains to the downside. Likely a short-term bounce here. Bounce can easily come back up, somewhere around $67,500 to $68,000. But basically, as long as Bitcoin's below, especially $69,000, the sort of breakdown level from yesterday, downside pressure remains, and I expect it's going to be a game of sideways and down, with potentially all the way down to $58,000, which is actually where the green 55 exponential moving average is on CME as of right now. So, coming around halving time, I think it's kind of just a waiting game. The more time that kind of ticks on by and Bitcoin just doesn't break down, the better. For the BULAs, and it seems to me like actually some of the alts are starting to put in some rallies here, some more constructive rallies. Overall. Anyways, further on from that, should we go check out some daily statistics? Can't speak. But Wednesday, if we just measure from the beginning of 2023, again, the beginning of this bull market, over 54% of all Wednesdays have closed positively. On the positive side, for the ones that did close positively, it did return an average of about 2.5% and did lose, for the losing side, an average of 1.69%. And as of right now, I think we've already kind of seen the downside move happen for today. From the open to the low, about 1.5% to the downside, probably going to be your bottom side of the range for today. To the upside, 2.5% would put Bitcoin somewhere around just above $67,000. So, can bounce a little bit more today, can bounce a little bit more tomorrow, but still mostly range bound, with pressure to the downside. Still potentially looking at low 60,000s or very high 50s, but as we've kind of put these puzzle pieces together over the past month now, probably going to be a major opportunity. Do some of the long-term setups that we've been looking at, are those invalidated? No, they're actually still very much valid. They won't be invalidated until Bitcoin actually closes below about 60,000-ish. Until then, they're still viable. It's just obviously going to take longer than the average time and trade that we would expect, which actually still will benefit the BULAs most likely, at least statistically speaking. Anyways, okay, cool. All right. I think that is it for today's video. Should I do a volume analysis? There actually is a volume analysis to be done here, which is of interest, but I'll hold off on that. I don't want to talk too much about that shit. But there is actually some relevant there. Maybe we'll save it for another day. All right. That's where we'll leave things off for today. As always, I want to wish you the best. Take care. Much love. And fuck, I forgot to talk about it. There has been a significant amount of interest in the MetaSignals platform recently, which is a platform that I'm invested in directly. So I'm biased here, but they've been posting a lot of their trades, both in their Discord and on their Twitter. And despite this downside price action, they've been actually catching a lot of the upside bounces. Here's one for Dogecoin. Here's one for, let's see, do we have another one? We do have another one. Here's one for Waves. Waves? What the fuck, man? There's a lot of these on the board. Actually, let me just pull up a few more on my other screen because my damn things are all fucked around over here. If I could just load the damn Discord, that'd be great. But basically, just wanted to show that, even in downside markets, there are tradable bounces. These are relatively low-term timeframes, to be fair. But at the end of the day, there are opportunities abound. And, some sort of a tool like this. Here's my favorite shitcoin, Litecoin piece of garbage. There are still opportunities there. So this is more like a spoon-feeding type service, to be fair, which, I've kind of like thrown in the towel on that. It's like, look, I understand that most people probably just want something like that. So you can go check out their free signals in the link in the description below. They also offer a lifetime service to this. They also offer a lifetime option to this service. What I'm trying to say, if I can get my English out properly. And it essentially just shoots out probabilistic setups towards you. Of course, you should have some sort of technical background, because realistically, you can optimize these setups much further if you just understand the basics of risk management. But even then, probabilities in your favor kind of alerts you to, hey, this is more likely to happen than that. Here are the areas of interest for that particular scenario. Do with this as you will. And that's a good place for me to be leaving off. As always, I want to wish you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow for Thursday.